Lions stand up under the bright lights and the nervous wait for a power young gun. All that and more to come on the round so far. But Kane Cornes, we're going to break the mould going back to the end of last round. And Friday night, the big story, Brisbane ending its hoodoo against the Pies and all but securing a top four berth.
And this was Chris Fagan at quarter time. Look at the score. They didn't score a goal in the first quarter. I just love the way that he's coaching. We saw a couple of weeks ago the halftime spray. Now, that wasn't a spray. It was just a stern word with a couple of his players. And this was the response. They immediately responded. I just think they are so well set up, the Brisbane Lions. I think they have a great temperament. I think they've got a very nice mix of young and experienced in their side. And they're really disciplined with the way that they've been going about it. So they play powerful footy. They did that in their second term, which basically was the difference in the game, and they blew it open. I know Collingwood made a late charge, but they're set up nicely with the draw and the way things are going for the back half of the year to make a really good tilt at this premiership.
Oscar McInerney stood up in the absence of Stephen Martin, and we're seeing some of the young guys there, Jared Berry and Hugh McCluggage. The only concern now is Harris Andrews, going to miss the rest of the home and away season with a hamstring injury, but it didn't prove costly in that last quarter. We're going to have a look at some of the Pies' entries as they were trying to chase the game. They threw Darcy Moore forward and still weren't able to find a target in attack.
Oh, this has been the issue for them all year. They just haven't been able to find a forward mix that works. So Cox played, wasn't really effective, albeit he kicked a couple of goals. And these entries were just poor. They were predictable. Thought the way that Brisbane really defended it and the conditions suited it. So it wasn't easy conditions for tall forwards as we're seeing here, but their entries were poor. They went inside 41 times for just the 5 goals. And they were just ineffective despite coming hard and getting repeated entries, particularly in the last quarter. They were messy entries and the forwards just could not capitalise. And for the first time, I think Nathan Buckley's panicking a little bit about it, and that's why he did chuck Darcy Moore forward, who's played that role some time ago, but not much this year. And Stevenson also lacked intensity, and you could have banked on him for 30 goals probably prior to the start of the year, so he's struggling as well.
They're waiting on Jordan De Goey to come back, aren't they? And you just wanted to point out this clip from Mason Cox. Take us through this because this is truly bizarre.
It is bizarre. So look at the space to Mason Cox's left, and he runs away from the space. Now, clearly, this is a player who hasn't grown up with AFL. All he had to do was just duck out to the left or just wait. I've never seen a forward run away from a goal, and that's what Mason Cox did. He was more keen or more intent on blocking than he was on finding an easy, uncontested mark and a shot from 35 metres out from goal. So that's the lack of nous, I guess, and forward craft that he's really struggling with at the moment. But that was just one instance, and it was a big moment in the game that I just thought he lacked a significant amount of awareness.
Are the Pies done? Are you giving them any hope with De Goey to come back?
No, I give them some small hope. I think Treloar, De Goey, perhaps Howe, who knows, with side bottom. Mitch, you'd be able to update me on that one. But, you got 4 of your 6 best players out. You get some of those back and into some sort of form. The bye before the finals will certainly help them more than any other team. It's a small chance, but they've got to completely revamp that forward line. I'd be going small. So I'd be going Myercheck, surrounded by Elliott and Brown and Dacos and Stevenson. I'd forget this tall experiment that just has not worked.
Well, Friday night was calling out for a player like Steele Sidebottom. They're hoping maybe he could get a flight back to Queensland, but that would require a minimum 14 days quarantine when it happens. So no guarantee we see him again this season. To tonight's game, the start of round 16. Ken Hinkley's 100th win as power coach. Rather, he's had some awesome wins, and this is stock standard. But Ollie Wines gets it done, and Kane, he's probably going under the radar.
He is. He absolutely is. He's averaging a massive 104 rating points from champion data. Now, this is a guy that was overlooked in round 1. I know he's had his injury history, but I think he's playing a very smart game at the moment, Ollie Wines. I think he knows his limitations, and that isn't to pinpoint balls with his kick. I think he's very effective with his hands. Clearly, he's a bull inside, and that points to the 7 clearances tonight and examples like that. But then he's been able to do this as well. Like, he does have a powerful leg and real penetration in his kick. So the 2 goals tonight, I thought he was the best player on the ground tonight. I know Travis Boak got a lot of the footy. I thought Zac Butters was good and Rock got a lot of it as well. But Ollie Wines was their most effective player tonight. And I reckon he's looking at a top 3 finish in the best and fairest. That's how strong his year has been. And he's a big weapon for them. I think he's maturing and really understanding his game.
And they get goals out of their midfielders. It proves they could be deadly when Charlie Dixon and the other forwards aren't hitting the scoreboard as much as they'd like. They're going to be nervous weight now on Zac Butters. This incident on Jai Simpkin. Simpkin didn't return to the field, Kane. Expecting elbow here, you would say careless, high impact because he's ruled out for the game, high contact. Looking at around 2 weeks for Zac Butters.
2 weeks, yeah, and if that's what the metric is saying and that's what the graph will spit out, 2 weeks seems severe to me. I think just looking at it, the eye test says that it's 1 week. He's playing on edge at the moment. I think there was 4 or 5 instances where he perhaps could have tackled, but he elected to bump. Look, I don't think it's any worry for Ken Hinkley. I think he loves the way that he's going about it and playing on edge. Yes, he's overstepped the mark there and it could cost him the last 2 rounds of the season. He'll be back for finals, but he's having an extraordinary year. I thought he was really tough and physical tonight. He got that one wrong. If you can tackle, you tackle. You don't bump, and that was the mistake there. So he's in trouble, particularly because Jai Simpkin was off and ruled out with concussion.
Well, tonight's win takes them to almost guaranteeing that top 2 spot if everything goes to plan from here. They may not need the Queensland support in the crowd, Kane. We love this, a little bit quirky in the stands. Power fan taking up his own mask. And then take us through the team song. Hamish Hartlett going for something left field with his the drums in the middle.
Well, his sister is a world-class DJ, Hamish Hartlett's sister.
Okay.
So maybe just channeling the music in the family. There is Hamish Hartlett. I loved it. I've loved the team songs across all clubs this year. Something different. No arm in arm, no Gatorade shower there on that instance. And the drums was a nice touch, I thought.
They tell us Tyson Goldsack, assistant coach or development coach, it was his idea to get it involved. So maybe something for the Power to hold on for the rest of the year. Back to Thursday night, Carlton GWS. The Giants only 2 goals up until 3/4 time, but they came with a late flurry, and you wanted to pinpoint Paddy Cripps and his output at the moment.
Well, I just think if he wants to go to the next level, it's about his leadership. So you want to captain a big Victorian club like Carlton. You want to start playing like Joel Selwood when the game's in the balance. So that's what I think Carlton have lacked. They've been in winning positions numerous times this year, but they haven't had any of their leaders stand up in crucial moments. And that goes to Cripps. Now, he's one of the most admired players in the game. Love the way that he goes about it. But at the moment, he isn't influencing games. He's kicked 5 goals for the year. Far too often it's been highlighted and well documented that he misses the shots. And when the game was on the line, you see the score there, 7 minutes to go in the last quarter. Was he going to do what Luke Hodge had done or what Jimmy Bartell had done in the past or other great captains, Joel Selwood, I mentioned, Jonathan Brown, these types that I think Cripps can get to? Well, that's the next step for him. And it comes back to his leadership and how he can stamp his authority on a game when his team needs someone to drag them over the line, which they haven't been able to do this year.
He was underdone going in off the 4-day break, but they're just crying out for that another zippy midfielder around him. That's why they're going so hard after Zach Williams from the Giants. Just on the Giants forward half, Jake Riccardi, the only multiple goal kicker on the ground. They went with 4 in attack. Is that something they can continue to work with, or you think it only needs to stick with 3?
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Not in Queensland conditions where a lot of the footy, and if they make finals, will be played there. Really dewy conditions. Really surprised they went with 4 Giants in the forward line. So I think the perfect mix for them is Cameron Himmelberg and then Riccardi, because he is more of that Jack Darling type. He's not super tall. He's more roaming, can get up the ground and take a big contested mark inside 50, which we saw late and went back and kicked a really crucial goal. So unfortunately, I think for Jeremy Finlayson, he's out of contract. I don't see him in their best side at the moment with the emergence of Riccardi.
Just wanted to pinpoint this piece of vision. Harry Perryman, game on the line, this smother or interception and then match-winning goal. Pretty impressive for a guy out of contract. Another one of their young stars, Kane. He's getting a bit of interest from elsewhere.
It's amazing the players that they've lost. I know they get really upset and really grumpy about it, the Giants, when you talk about it. But already this week, I've heard of 3 players being linked to other clubs, and Perryman's been one of them. Hately's the other one, and Jeremy Cameron is always linked to others. And then there's Finlayson as well. But Port Adelaide, I read a report there, Kane, and why wouldn't you be? He's a very versatile player, can play inside, can play outside, and as you saw there, can go forward and kick a goal. So they've got some work to do on retaining a pretty star-studded list.
Back to the earlier game on Thursday night. Melbourne, they may well have coughed their game up. They coughed their season up here. How about some of these efforts in their back half, Kane? They continue to amaze us. 1 week after impressing against the Saints, and it goes up in smoke, up in Cairns.
It's nothing but a putrid performance. And I would urge the Melbourne players to watch this back and not be embarrassed by this performance, considering you're playing against the bottom 4 side who are missing 3 out of their best 10 players. Heaney wasn't there. Franklin's not there, of course. Mills didn't play. and you serve this up with a final spot on the line, it's extraordinary. Just look at the ease in which they mark the ball uncontested from held-up situations inside 50. Shouldn't happen. You've got a strong defence there. This should not happen. Efforts like this shouldn't happen. Now, we're going to show 5, 6, 7 efforts here. I mean, Papley's able just to run away from them, have a bounce, chip it over, another easy uncontested mark inside 50. This one here, look at the lack of effort, the lack of chase, the lack of hunger.
They're just walking.
From a Melbourne side. They are walking out of that, dancing around, and then easy marks inside 50 again. And once again, held up ball outside 50, basically all of Melbourne's team inside the back 50, and no one thinks to go and stand in the only place that ball could go. When you start blaming each other like Langdon's done there, you know you're in trouble. So unfortunately for Simon Goodwin, he keeps telling us they're working hard, they know what they need to fix. He can't fix it, and time's running out.
Horror performance for the Demons, but the Swans, they showed a bit. They've taken 2 scalps now. They knocked off the Giants a few weeks back. Now the Demons, Justin McInerney, the NAB Rising Star nominee for this week. But another recycled player, Lewis Taylor. We haven't heard much about this guy in 3 or 4 years, Kane, but he was impressive, 7 score involvements.
Yeah, he was. Look, I've loved what Sydney have done. I think it's the absolute blueprint. I think them and Fremantle, whilst they're not going to trouble the scorers in terms of getting near a final spot, that's how you rebuild a footy club. It's not the way that Adelaide have done it. It's not the way that Carlton have done it over the years. This is the way you do it. And it does involve getting some experience in. And Louis Taylor's one of those. So 7 score involvements, you get him basically for nothing in the trade period. And it's really important for him and players like him on the edge. And if list sizes are going to come down and salary caps are going to come down and players' jobs are at risk, you've got to perform every time you get the opportunity. And that was the match-winning goal there, and it was great to see him. He played some really good footy early days at Brisbane, return to somewhat of his best.
And a couple of nasty injuries for the Demons. Angus Brayshaw out for 2 to 3 weeks with a ligament injury in his foot. And Nathan Jones re-injured his quad, out for 2 or 3. And unfortunately, the Demons may need to make finals if we're ever to see him again on a footy field. So fingers crossed for him. We go to the ladder after 15 rounds and 1 game. Huge for the Power to keep their top spot. And Kane, the West Coast Eagles get their chance tomorrow to jump back into the top 4.
Oh, it's a massive game, not only for the Eagles, who need that top 4 spot, but for their opponent, the Western Bulldogs. I don't know why. I've got a lot of faith in the Bulldogs. They continually let me down. I think I tip them every week, Mitch, and I've done it again. There's the bottom half of the 8, and we're probably down to 10, aren't we? I mean, Melbourne can still make it. They've got a reasonably soft draw, and the Bulldogs would have to win tomorrow against a really good opposition to force their way into the 8 for an unlikely tilt at the premiership. But it's getting down to lower numbers, and we've ruled out Essendon and we've ruled out some others.
So 25 games to go. We thought we'd have a look at our ladder predictor that each of us sitting right now. Take us through this. You've got the Bulldogs winning their last 3 games, including that one against the Eagles tomorrow. Yeah,
I do. I don't know why. There's something about them. I just think the footy they played against Geelong in that first quarter, I think when they play their best football, they are basically as good as anyone. And we saw that against a good opposition in Geelong. So blind faith, some would call it, but I think they can upset the Eagles tomorrow and get their season back on track and just sneak in. It's going to come down to percentage. Look, it's tough. I've got the Saints missing out, which would be a disaster for them considering how impressive they've been. And at one point looking at a top 4 spot. And Port Adelaide also just dropping out of that vital top 2 spot. Something tells me Collingwood may get them in the last round and they may just miss out. But yours is not too different, but a few minor tweaks to mine.
I've got the Saints just holding on, so I don't think the Dogs can beat West Coast tomorrow, so that'll keep the Saints alive. That 4th and 5th spot between Geelong and Richmond, it'll come down. I've got the Tigers beating the Cats next week. They've got a 4 days extra break, Kane, over the Cats. So I know they've had their indiscretions this week. Another massive week in the headlines for the Tigers with Callum Coleman-Jones and Sydney Stack. But if they can win that, it goes a long way to securing them a top 4 berth. We go to one more thing now. Back to Friday night. And gee, we love this. Mitch Robinson and Brayden Maynard, 2 of the more fiery players on the ground. A bit of hate towards each other during the game, and they patched things up afterwards.
Yeah, 2 of my favourites. We don't have too many overtly aggressive or, mean's the wrong word, but really tough, fierce competitors left in modern footy, and these are 2 going head-to-head. So 2 of my absolute favourites. Should have been a free kick to Mitch Robinson. Umpire was right there, but I actually thought the umpiring was really strong on Friday night. They tended to put their whistles away. It was more umpired like a final, which I think we all support, and then they catch up afterwards. So go hard on the field, shake hands after, and I think there's a lot of respect between those two.
Kane Cornes, thanks for that. The Bulldogs fans, they're rejoicing with you tonight. Let's see if they can get the win over the Eagles tomorrow.
Don't let me down again, doggies.
See you same time, same place here on The Round So Far next week.